I always thought the house would be our endgame, a quiet place in a neighborhood that wasn't too loud, not too quiet, and just close enough to the base that Lily wouldn't mind the commute. It had the kind of front yard that made you think of lazy Sunday mornings, fresh coffee, and the distant hum of someone mowing their lawn. But none of that happened. At least not for long. We'd lived in the Glen, just under 6 months before everything started to feel wrong. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even anything you could point to right away. It was just this off-ness. The way the mail came inconsistently. The subtle change in our neighbor Shelley's smile. Less warmth, more obligation. And then the sprinkler stopped working. That should have been an easy fix. Except when I popped the maintenance box, the wires were clipped, clean, intentional. I asked Lily if she'd done it, and she gave me a look like I'd asked if she was secretly building a rocket in the basement. So we filed it away under. Weird but fixable. A one-off. We didn't know it was the first move. Then came the unmarked white SUV. It parked across from our house for hours that first day. The next day it came again. No logos. No license plate I could see from the front. The windows were tinted enough to reflect the sun, but not enough that I couldn't feel someone inside watching. I stood in the driveway with a wrench in my hand, pretending to check the AC unit. After 20 minutes, the SUV drove off. I didn't say anything to Lily that night. I told myself it was just neighborhood security. Maybe the HOA had gotten stricter. Maybe they were looking for a car thief or checking on packages. I was lying to myself, and I knew it. The morning after that, Lily found a small card slipped into the mailbox. No return address. No stamp. Just a dark green rectangle with serif lettering that read, "For zoning Article 7F, subsection 9, Lot 27 is in conditional compliance, status pending verification." Our address was Lot 27. Lily stared at the card longer than I expected. Her jaw tightened, and her voice dropped low when she said, "That's not a real regulation." "You sure? I'm Navy, not dumb." She walked inside without another word. That night, after dinner, she pulled out a black case I'd never seen before. She'd kept it locked inside the linen closet, buried behind old towels and labeled as sewing supplies. Inside wasn't thread or needles, it was hardware. Real, expensive, military-grade stuff, an encrypted comms device, signal detector, and something that looked like a very compact EMP jammer. "Why do you have this?" I asked, trying not to sound like I'd lost all grip on who my wife really was. "Because I knew one day something like this might happen," she said. "And I didn't think it would happen here, but I knew better than to be unprepared." That night was the first I didn't sleep. Not because I felt afraid, not exactly, but because I felt something I hadn't since college. A gut-level signal that something was about to break. And I didn't know if I was supposed to run from it or toward it. A week later, things escalated. The power went out. Not just the usual flicker or brownout, but a clean, controlled failure. The kind where your digital clocks freeze at a weird time, like 2:17 a.m., and your security cameras record exactly 1 second of static before cutting off. I'd installed the cameras myself. Wired, not wireless. Not hackable. But when I checked the footage, everything was blank. The SUV returned again. This time it stopped right at the foot of our driveway. 2 men got out. They weren't dressed in uniforms. No badges. Just matching windbreakers, boots, and those earpieces you only see in movies or government buildings. One of them carried a tablet. The other walked toward our door. Lily was already standing beside me when I opened it. Calm. Still. Like she'd been expecting them. "Mr. and Mrs. Harper?" the man with the tablet asked. "Who's asking?" Lily's tone was almost bored. "We're with the Meadowlark Preservation and Zoning Authority." "That's not a real agency," she said flatly. "It is now." He held out the tablet. It showed a diagram of our property with red overlay lines, highlighted sectors, and a list of alleged zoning infractions, fencing codes, external lighting violations, landscaping noncompliance. "This isn't a rental," I said. "We own this house." "You own the structure," the man said. "But the land falls under conditional preservation rules that supersede private ownership if compliance thresholds are not maintained. Thresholds that don't exist," Lily added. "Mrs. Harper, under Subarticle 9A of the Reformation Guidelines, stop." She said it like a command, like it carried legal weight. And it worked. Both men paused. The man with the tablet blinked, clearly recalibrating. "Is there a problem?" the other one asked, hand moving just slightly near his belt, where a badge or gun might be. But there was nothing there. "Yes," Lily said, stepping forward. "There's a problem. You're trespassing. You're misrepresenting authority. And if you come any closer, I will interpret your presence as a direct threat to the sovereignty of this household." She didn't yell. She didn't move her arms. But something in her voice, the dead certainty, the lack of hesitation, made the men take a small step back. Then one of them smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the smile someone gives when they think they've already won. He held up the tablet, tapped a few buttons, and turned it around. It displayed an aerial image of our house, taken recently, in infrared. It showed 2 heat signatures inside. Me and Lily. "Just so you know," he said, "we're not the only ones watching." Then they left. We didn't call the police. We knew better. The police wouldn't find anything. There were no records for the Meadowlark Authority. No legal case filed against us. Just words and presence and implication. But whatever they were doing, it wasn't just intimidation. Over the following days, we noticed more small violations. A loosened back gate. Screws removed from the porch railing. The garbage bins turned over in the middle of the night. One morning, the coffee machine wouldn't work. It turned out the internal fuse had been fried, not by accident, but from a precise short circuit, like someone had used a directed pulse. Then came the dreams. Lily started waking up gasping. Not screaming, gasping. Like she was drowning in her sleep. I'd reach over, and she'd already be halfway to the bedroom closet where the black case now lived, open and ready. She didn't remember what the dreams were. Only that they felt like old memories mixed with something wrong. Familiar faces with the wrong voices. Desert heat but no sun. Debrief rooms where no one spoke. "I think they're trying to get in my head," she said one night, hand shaking slightly. "But I don't know how." I didn't ask her what she meant by "they." I just asked, "What do we do?" She looked at me, her eyes clear but tired. "We hold the line." That became our phrase. Our oath. We weren't just keeping the house. We were keeping who we were. We started our own surveillance. Lily ran hard lines from the garage to a secure, closed-loop network in the attic. No Wi-Fi. No Bluetooth. Nothing that could be pinged from outside. We used thermal traps in the yard, cheap devices built to detect body heat at odd intervals. They went off nearly every night, but never on camera. Whatever, or whoever, was probing our perimeter had tech beyond basic stealth. The footprints appeared in the morning dew, but nothing ever showed on the playback. Not even a blur. And our neighbors? They stopped talking. The woman across the street waved one morning, but her eyes looked scared. Not in a dramatic way. In that deeply repressed, please don't notice way. We understood. Everyone in the Glen was under something. Whether it was fear, pressure, or silent agreement, it didn't matter. We were alone, but we were still here. The nights got longer, even when the clock said they hadn't. Something about being under constant threat rewires your sense of time. You don't sleep the same. You don't even blink the same. Every sound becomes a variable. Every silence feels engineered. The Glen wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a maze. And the walls kept shifting when we weren't looking. Lily stopped going on her morning runs. She said her body felt different. Not sick, just out of sync. She would stretch on the porch, pause halfway through a breath, then shake her head and go back inside. I didn't press her. I knew she was tracking something. Some signal in the air I couldn't sense. She said it was a calibration thing. They tune your nervous system before they go for your memories. She told me one night, while wiring a motion sensor beneath the floorboards. I asked who they were again, and this time, she answered. There are private agencies that were blackballed after Afghanistan. She said. Off-book PSYOPs units. Ghost contractors. They didn't disappear. They just changed addresses. And now they run zoning boards? They don't run anything. They lease influence. They weaponize systems. They find the parts of the law that live in gray zones, then they expand them. The more she said, the more she sounded like someone who'd seen all this before. Not just in theory. In field reports. After action debriefs. Failed missions. And then came the file. It wasn't mailed. It wasn't emailed. It just appeared, on our back porch, inside an old manila envelope with a red wax seal. The seal was stamped with an image of a house, flanked by oak leaves, under which were the words. Asset Compliance Directive 42C. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Infrared shots of our house from angles we couldn't explain. Floor plans. Lily's military file, heavily redacted but still legible in all the wrong places. Notes on her deployments, behavioral analysis, even language indicating potential non-compliance with end-of-service behavioral directive. There were notes on me too. Civilian profile. Emotional temperament. Unassessed risk. I wanted to burn it. Lily scanned every page into her encrypted drive. They're building a profile, she said. Trying to determine thresholds. For what? For when we break. That was the moment I realized what this was. It wasn't eviction. It wasn't law enforcement. This was a test. We weren't just being pushed out of a house. We were being pushed through a series of escalating psychological and environmental stressors. Our home had become a lab. And we were the rats. The Glen was part of a containment experiment. Lily found references in the file to Project Nidus. Something that never showed up in public defense indexes, but appeared multiple times in connection to urban spatial testing and civil behavior response modeling. The neighborhood, the HOA, the zoning agency, none of it was organic. It was built for monitoring. The Glen was essentially a behavioral dome wrapped in suburbia. We were subjects. And Lily? She was the anomaly. Someone somewhere hadn't expected her to make it home from her last deployment. Her file mentioned an extraction window that was marked as missed. Possible identity reintegration failure was scribbled in the margin. My wife wasn't supposed to be in this neighborhood. She wasn't even supposed to be free. She had escaped something, and now it had come looking for her. That night we didn't speak. We just sat on the couch, the envelope between us. She rested her hand on my shoulder. It was the first time I felt her fingers shake. We decided to leave, to step away for 2 days, just to clear our heads and reset. But when we started packing, Lily stopped mid-motion. If we go, they'll close the loop. What does that mean? It means once we're off the grid, they'll scrub the house. Erase every trace. They'll bring in a shell buyer, plant a fake family, change the records. This place will never have existed. I stared at the walls. The paint we chose. The shelf I installed crooked the first time and had to redo. The scuff marks by the stairs where Lily had dropped her duffel after the first deployment. If we leave, she said again, we don't come back. So we stayed. The next incident wasn't stealth. It was open, calculated aggression. Around 2 a.m., the motion sensors lit up the front yard. Brutus, our old shepherd mix, growled low from the foot of the bed. We pulled the blinds back and saw them. 4 men. No masks. Black jackets. Tactical formation. They didn't approach the door. They circled the house. One carried a device, flat, metallic, blinking blue. Lily moved faster than I'd ever seen. She grabbed the blackout curtain from the emergency chest, threw it over the security feed console, then dragged me down into the crawl space. She hit a switch, and suddenly the air vent stopped humming. Our phones cut off. EMP's coming, she whispered. The blue flash was quick. Everything went dead. Every camera, Every hard drive, every powered sensor. Gone, but Lily had backups. Not digital, analog. One corner of our garage was lined with chemical film cameras and a manual recording system. And she had something else. A passive EM trap buried beneath the flower bed. When the intruders crossed it, the trap snapped and exploded into a flashbang-level burst of light and static. The men scrambled. Lily ran outside before I could stop her. She didn't carry a weapon. She carried a flare. She fired it straight up into the night sky, and for one moment, everything froze. The red blaze lit up the faces of the men. Their eyes widened. They turned and ran, not because of the flare, but because Lily was sending a signal. Someone answered 2 blocks away. A drone we hadn't launched lit up and hovered. Not one of theirs. One of ours. Her contact. A recon pilot from her previous unit, apparently still flying freelance. He'd been waiting for the flare. He'd been watching too. The intruders fled. No police. No sirens. No neighbors came out, but we knew the line had shifted again. They had pushed. Lily had pushed back. The next day, our mailbox was gone. Not vandalized, removed. Nothing but a hole in the ground. Our property tax record on the county site now said, unverified owner status. Lily's discharge papers, when pulled from her Navy profile, were missing half their metadata. They're erasing us, she said. And if we let them? I asked. They'll finish the job. Then she said something that has lived in my head ever since. This isn't about territory. It's about memory. They're not just trying to take our home. They're trying to rewrite that we were ever here. The psychological pressure ramped up. The dreams returned. This time, they weren't just hers. I started having them too. Rooms with no exits. Voices without faces. Moments from our past altered, made uncanny. Lily in a different uniform, me in a house we never lived in, holding mail with a name that wasn't ours. This wasn't coincidence. It was tech. It had to be. Some kind of neural imprinting. Subaudible stimuli. Frequencies embedded into the ambient soundscape of the neighborhood. It made sense. All the dogs on our street had gone quiet weeks ago. Not scared, subdued, and then Lily found it. Behind the insulation in the attic was a silver disc, no bigger than a dinner plate. A transmitter. Not military issued. Not commercial. Something else. When she touched it, it pulsed once, then shut down. There were symbols etched into its side, numbers mostly. Coordinates. We ran them. They led to a government-owned parcel of land in Utah, listed as a defunct communications facility. We printed the coordinates and burned the disc. That night, Lily sat on the floor, legs crossed, eyes unfocused. This isn't just about me, she whispered. They're running parallel tests. I wasn't the only one debriefed. Others must have resisted too. And the Glen? I asked. It's not a neighborhood, she said. It's a net. We started building countermeasures not just to defend ourselves, but to reclaim mental space. To remember that we were still us, still real, still more than entries in a corrupted file on someone's cloud server. Lily turned the basement into a soft bunker. No metal shielding, no hardened doors. Just chalk lines on the wall marking each intrusion, each anomaly, each moment they tried to delete us from our own story. She called it the archive. A place where memory could live without being rewritten. The neighbors avoided eye contact entirely now. Hank, 3 doors down, packed up in the middle of the night. A moving truck came at 3 a.m., and by sunrise, his house was already listed under a new name on the digital registry. No history of prior ownership. When I checked the satellite records, even the car he used to drive was gone from every angle. Like he'd never existed. They were accelerating the wipe. Lily didn't speak much during those days, but I watched her become sharper, more methodical, like a machine winding itself tighter with each breath. She wrote everything down. Handwritten logs of each encounter, timestamps from memory, sketched layouts of the house in case they were digitally altered. One night she looked at me and said, if they get to me, use the orange file under the mattress. It has what you'll need to reset. Reset what? I asked. She looked at me, and her face softened just a little. Us. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that wasn't going to happen. But you don't say things like that to someone who's seen what she's seen. You don't try to protect someone who already knows the rules of war better than you do. You just nod. And pray she doesn't ever need you to open that file. Then came the night of the breach. It wasn't like before. No unmarked SUVs. No quiet flicker of lights. This time, it was loud. The glass in the kitchen window shattered from an acoustic pulse, deep, low frequency, like a pressure wave designed to disorient. The smoke alarm went off, then stopped. Then every device in the house turned on at once. The television, the toaster, the thermostat, all spiking power in unison like something had overridden the system entirely. We moved as one. I grabbed the emergency bag. Lily grabbed the comms pack and activated the basement lockout. The lights in the neighborhood flickered, then stayed off. Outside, we saw them. Not 4, not 6. At least 12. Tactical gear, faceless helmets, light-suppressing armor. No insignia. No voices. They moved like a coordinated team, but they weren't expecting Lily to counterstrike. She used a magnetic shunt from her service days, embedded into the garden stones last month without a word. When they crossed the threshold, the shunt overloaded their equipment, shorting out HUDs, comm links, and thermal vision all at once. They staggered, disoriented. Lily didn't shoot. She didn't need to. She triggered the house's internal pulse. A custom setup she'd built over weeks using scavenged capacitors and shielding material from the garage. It emitted a silent burst designed to disrupt neurosignaling in anyone wearing adaptive optics or feedback suits. The intruders collapsed to one knee. That was our window. We escaped through the old storm drain at the edge of the lot. A passage she'd mapped weeks earlier, believing it would come to this. As we crawled out into the woods behind the Glen, we could hear the sirens begin. Not police, but something trying to look like police. Black cruisers with stenciled logos that read, Regional Oversight Enforcement. Nothing real. Just enough theater to keep bystanders confused. We didn't run far. Just enough to circle back. Because Lily had a plan. She discovered something buried in the attic. A master control unit left by whoever had installed the transmitter. It wasn't just a beacon. It was a hub. She believed it connected every smart device, every monitor, every psychological trigger used on the block. And she believed it could be reversed. So she initiated the fail-safe. At 4:27 a.m., every house in the Glen lit up. Projectors embedded in security systems, smart TVs, thermostats, even smart fridges. All of them broadcast the same signal. Files Lily had decrypted from the transmitter. Images, documents, memos, internal communications marked top secret unauthorized AI behavioral calibration. Footage of neighborhood meetings staged by actors. Digital manipulation of community group texts. Real-time observation logs of every resident. Emotional response charts. Voice print mimicry testing. Neural map overlays. It all streamed, in high-definition clarity, to every screen in the neighborhood. People woke up screaming. Some ran outside. Some dropped to the ground. Some just stood there, staring at the monitors, as if trying to unsee the years they had mistaken for real life. The illusion broke. And with it, so did control. The Glen collapsed not in violence, but in silence. The SUVs stopped coming. The power grids went dark. County records reverted. Online maps labeled the area. Under revision. Property records scrubbed. But this time, not as erasure.as released. By sunrise, the agency had pulled out. Whatever experiment they had tried to run had failed. The data was compromised. The anomaly, Lily, had spread contagion through the system. Awareness. We returned to the house that evening. Nothing had been taken. But it all felt different now. Like waking up after anesthesia, aware of every scar you'd forgotten was stitched into you. Lily placed the orange file on the dining table and burned it without opening it. We don't need it now, she said. For a few days, we expected retaliation. We slept in shifts. Monitored the field. But nothing came. Just quiet. Just space. Eventually, the neighbors started speaking again. Not about what happened. No one dared, but about mundane things. Trash pickup. Weather. Fences. But there was a light behind their words, like the tension had lifted. Some of them moved away. Others stayed, like us, unsure what came next. We knew we weren't safe. Not entirely. Whatever system had touched us didn't just vanish because a field test went sideways. But Lily said something that stayed with me. They can't control what's been seen. Only what's ignored. So we chose not to ignore it. We rebuilt. Slowly. Quietly. Without giving up the edge, Lily began teaching self-defense to a few of the neighbors. I started a digital record, handwritten, printed, stored in offline binders, tracking the signs. The vehicles that return at night with no plates. The power fluctuations that don't follow weather patterns. The dreams that still sometimes creep in, laced with memories that aren't quite ours. But the difference now is we know the game. And we know our house isn't just a structure. It's an anchor. A declaration. You can scrub files. You can jam signals. You can even alter maps, but you can't erase presence. And we're still here, not because they let us stay, but because we chose to. The Glen still looks the same from the outside. Same manicured lawns. Same tidy sidewalks. Same HOA signs faded by sun. But beneath it, it's different. There's a hum in the air. Not threatening. Just aware. Because once you break the illusion, you can't go back. And once you reclaim your name, your space, your memory, no system, no authority, no shadow experiment can take it again. Lily says the war never really ended. It just changed terrain. But this terrain, this is ours, and we're not leaving.